At least 46% of car seats are installed incorrectly. That's the latest number from the National Highway Traffic Safety Association. But on a local level, that number is much higher.
That's right. Welcoming in coming in on Saturday is an organization called Safe Kids Maine, and we'll be holding a seat check event coming up in Windham. And joining us this morning on Arc Maine is Suzanne Dawson, who is the executive director of Safe Kids Maine. You guys offer free community car seat checks all over the state. Tell us about the one coming up on Saturday.
Well, it's a very exciting week. It's National Child Passenger Safety Week, where we celebrate keeping kids safe in the car. And on Saturday, it's Seat Check Saturday, where cities and towns across the country are offering free car seat checks for the families. So in Windham, we're going to be offering a free memorial event for a technician who passed away a couple of years ago. He was very active in our coalition, and this event is from 10 to 1 at the Windham Fire Department in North Windham, and we are excited to be able to bring the seat check to the community.
So we just mentioned a statistic on the national level. Tell us more about what you're actually seeing out there when it comes to people installing these incorrectly.
Yeah, so even though the national statistics show about 50% are being used incorrectly, locally we're seeing around 90% of misuse. So pretty much 9 out of 10 car seats are being used wrong in Maine.
And it's funny when you look at the other stats, according to the Highway Transportation Association, they're saying 90% think they're doing it right, yes, which is crazy, huh?
Yes, there is a huge disconnect between those who think they're doing it right and the reality is of how many are doing it incorrectly. And so we really want to bridge that gap and encourage everybody to come out.
What are people doing wrong? What are the most common mistakes you're seeing?
So some of the more common mistakes we're seeing is that the seat is not installed properly into the car, whether they're not using the bright seat belt system or the latch system, it's not tight enough. And then how they're buckling the child, the harness straps may not be snug enough to hold the child in during a crash. So it's really, really important that every step isn't missed so that the car seat can perform properly in a crash.
Well, we have a video and some photos of a car seat check event we did in our parking lot not that long ago. And we're seeing a lot of the video right here taking us a look at the correct way to do it. Kind of take us through this.
So when we encourage families to meet with a certified child passenger safety technician, and we review the car seat instructions and the vehicle instructions, and what we want to do is make sure that the seat is installed in the correct, first of all, it's the correct seat for the child, so selection of the seat, the direction, whether they're going to be forward facing or rear facing, the location in the vehicle, are they going to be on the side or in the rear center, and then how it's going to be installed, whether the seatbelt or the latch system, and then of course how we're going to harness the child, making sure that it's adjusted at the proper height level for them and that the harness is snug and that the chest clip is at armpit level.
Tell us who you brought here with you this morning and how this helps to educate the public.
Absolutely. So this is my friend Sirius. My granddaughters named them on the way to school this morning because they are serious about car seat safety. And so we use these dolls by huggable images. They fit really nicely in a car seat, and we use these to not only teach technicians to become certified technicians, but also with families, especially expectant families. Their baby's not here yet, so we use smaller dolls to be able to fit those into the seats before the baby's born. We do encourage people to get their car seats checked at least 4 weeks before their due date to make sure they're good to go from the hospital once that baby is born.
All right, so what's the difference between being in snug or tight in there? And the one thing we have to think about is coming up in late fall and into the winter, the kids are going to have coats on. I have 5 kids, and it's difficult to try to get in the car seat sometimes.
Absolutely, it can be. So we want this harness nice and snug so that you cannot pinch any of the webbing right at the collarbone. Any slack in the harness is that much more the child can move during a crash. So we really want them to stay within the car seat. Now, you mentioned bulky jackets. Any bulk clothing or jackets under the harness can actually compress during a crash, which leaves the harness loose. So we want to buckle the child up with minimal clothing, thin clothing, something non-compressible, nothing puffy, and then we can always put a blanket, or they could put their jacket on backwards to keep them safe once they're buckled in the car seat, but nothing bulky and fluffy under that harness.
What kind of questions, what are the most common questions you get from parents, whether they already have the child or, they're expecting, what are they most concerned about, I guess?
A lot of them just want to make sure that the seat is installed properly. Some of them will say, I know it's loose, I just can't figure out how to get it tight. And we show them some tips and tricks on how to make that tight for them. And it's very hands-on. We don't install the seat for them. We teach them and empower them how to install their car seats and how to buckle their children properly.
A lot of confusion out there too with the transition from going from we're talking about a car seat to a booster, then a booster to sitting just like a normal person with the seatbelt on. And to top things off, every state is different.
It absolutely is. Every state has a different law, and what I tell families, if you're following best practice, then you're in compliance with all the laws in our state. So that if you're traveling across the border, then you are going to be safe. So we want to make sure that children stay rear-facing for as long as possible within the manufacturer's height and weight limits. We want to make sure children stay in their 5-point harness forward-facing as long as possible until they reach those upper limits. Then they transition into that booster seat until the seat belt fits them properly. And a lot of people don't know what that means. They make sure that that lap and shoulder belt is touching, the lap portion touching low on the hips, tops of the thighs, the shoulder belt centered across the chest, and they should be able to stay in that position the entire ride. And that's behaviorally a lot of issues with children being able to sit properly in an adult seat belt. In Maine, our law does require children to be rear-facing until they're at least 2 years of age, unless they meet the height limit of their convertible car seat, and they need to stay in a harness like this until they're at least 55 pounds or until they reach the weight or height limit of their car seat. Then they transition into that booster seat, really until age 8, 80 pounds, 57 inches, but they also have to fit the adult seatbelt system. And again, most kids don't fit until they're 10 to 12 years old.
All right, and real quick, if you could just let everybody know again the event that's coming up, when and where, and then where they can find more information if they can't make it.
Absolutely. So the event is on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Windham Fire Rescue Department, 718 Roosevelt Trail in North Windham. Appointments can be made at safekidsmaine.org, where they also can find additional information about child passenger safety and how to keep their kids safe.
All right, and thanks to Sirius for coming on the show today.
Yes, it is serious. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.